The Senate Republicans, for whatever reason, decided to release a draft of their bill today, of their version of the American Health Care Act, previously passed by the House of Representatives and celebrated in the Rose Garden by Donald Trump and the entire Republican House caucus. The Republican senators have decided to get in on the action, and it would appear that this bill not only is mean, according to Donald Trump's own words, but according to Chuck Schumer's very corny play on words, it's meaner than we even thought it could possibly be. Let's jump into some of the details of it. So much of the bill is the same as what the House Republicans passed a few months back, but there are some very significant differences, and there's some things that we need to point out. So the bill is going to hurt more people now than even what the House Republicans could have achieved. Right, we're expecting, according to the House Republicans bill, according to the CBO score, to lose about 24 million additional Americans off of health care simply by passing this bill. And the Republican version, rather, is poised to hurt even more. Some of the same things exist. So there's no longer an individual mandate in this. And so the entire framework of it is being undermined out the gate. There's no individual mandate. There's no employer mandate, meaning there's no penalty for employers who do not provide insurance for their employees, particularly large employers. The tax credits would vary by income at a lower eligibility level than under the ACA. And basically what this means is that for you to get any type of credit or subsidy from the government in terms of assistance, where the ACA provided coverage for anyone who earned less, provided a subsidy rather for anyone who made less than 400% of the federal poverty line. And in real numbers, what that means is if you're an individual and you made less than $47,000 a year, or if you were a family of four and you made less than $97,000 a year, you qualified for a subsidy to help you with your insurance premiums. Now that's changed from 400% of the federal poverty line to 350%, meaning now instead of $40,000, $47,000, you have to make less than $41,000 for an individual. And for a family of four, instead of $97,000, you have to make less than $85,000 for a family of four. So essentially, these tax credits help you buy less. You can get less assistance, a lower threshold, and you get less. So this is just another way that the Republican Party is looking to hurt the average American. Here's another one. Now, this hasn't changed since the House version of the bill, but it's worth mentioning again. Their age-based pricing. In the Affordable Care Act, you could only charge an elderly person 3 times what you would charge a younger person. And this was to, essentially you would want a person like me who prefers single payer, you would want everyone to get no premiums, essentially just whatever our taxes cover. And so even underneath the Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, 3 times is still, in my opinion, wrong. However, they've shifted it from being a 3-to-1 ratio to now 5-to-1, a 5-to-1 ratio. In other words, insurance companies can now charge older people 5 times as much as they charge younger people. And it gets even better. The Senate bill allows states to opt out of Obamacare's marketplaces and essential health benefit requirements. Now, this is something that hasn't changed since the House version of the bill, and we covered extensively when they passed that version of the bill. But this one essentially lets them determine, gives states the ability to waive health benefit requirements, allowing insurers to exclude things like specific health care products and services. So in one state, it may be a requirement for you to provide, maternity health care, a special health care coverage for someone who's pregnant. In another state, they may opt out of that, and you could be in Georgia, for example, and not be able to get the same type of care that you would if you were in Massachusetts. And the list goes on. So the Senate bill, again, repeals the individual mandate, and it replaces it with nothing. Nothing. And, of course, the entire point of the bill, if you're trying to figure out why they're doing this, to America and why they're doing it to themselves, besides their grudge against President Obama, former President Obama, if you really want to know why they are doing this, it's because it provides a tax cut for the wealthy. Let's just break it down. In the Affordable Care Act, which I always want to call Obamacare, it levies taxes on wealthy people and healthcare companies to finance expanding coverage, according to the New York Times. And the Affordable Care Act, or the American Health Care Act, so many acronyms, repeals or cuts all those taxes. One in particular is the ability for healthcare companies to write off CEO salaries above $500,000 a year. They've cut that, and now they are not, now where Obamacare limited their ability to write off salaries over $500,000 a year. Now the American Health Care Act version, the Senate version, does not have that limit or that cap. So, you know, Obamacare was considered by, and this is actually a good take, this particular take from Vox.com. They said Obamacare was a redistribution of wealth from the rich to the poor. The AHCA would reverse that. And essentially, the AHCA is now going to be socialism for the wealthy. We have socialism in America. We have always had socialism in America. It's just we've had socialism for the wealthy and socialism for corporations. And in this case, we have socialism for the wealthy as well as healthcare corporations. This is exactly why. This is the reason. This is why they are doing this. Not because they have a better solution. This is a worse solution. This is not even a solution. It's going to harm so many more people, 24 million Americans, and possibly more once we get the final CBO score. So not only are they going to hurt more Americans, but they're targeting the sickest and the elderly. The people who are going to pay the most out of this are the people who need it the most. And this is something that can't be overstated. And it's amazing to me, the people who support this, they support it because it's something from the Republican Party, so it's got to be good, according to some Republicans. But those groups are the #1 groups who depend on the subsidies just to get insurance, and they depend on Medicaid. Don't forget, in here, there's a cut in Medicaid expansion. This is over and above what the House Republicans did. In the Senate bill includes deeper Medicaid cuts than the House bill. So people who actually depend on this the most, Republican voters who depend on this the most, who might be championing this simply because they finally get to repeal Obamacare, they are going to be hurt the most by this. And a lot of people are not taking this sitting down. There were protests today, brilliant protests that took place in front of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's office. Capitol Hill police had to remove protesters. Before we discuss it any further, let's take a look at the protesters that they were removing. Wow. So this was just one protester out of 60 who were forcibly removed from Mitch McConnell's office, and they were a part of ADAPT. ADAPT is Americans Disabled for Accountability in Public Transit, Accessibility in Public Transit. And so there were literally dozens of people, handicapped, disabled, in wheelchairs, protesting on behalf of health care benefits that they need and we need. They're there protesting even on our behalf. And the Capitol Police removed them, dragging them out of their wheelchairs, dragging them out and stopping them from protesting a bill that's going to do damage to their life, their livelihood, to their lifestyles, to everything that they need. And I'm sorry, like, I totally get that you're a police officer and you have to do your job, but no, you don't have to do your job. This is one assignment that I would have had to get received a reprimand. They would have to reprimand me. Put me on desk duty for a month. I mean, do something, but you're not going to get me on film dragging a disabled person out of their wheelchair, especially when they're there protesting on the behalf of their best interests against Senate Republicans who are doing everything they can to destroy 24 million more Americans, all for the sake of tax cuts and all for the sake of Donald Trump's ego. And yet the bravest among us, which should not be a surprise, are often the people who have the most to lose. And here we are, ADAPT stood out there on behalf of all of us able-bodied people, and they were dragged out in a most disgusting fashion. I actually have to pause and really think about this in not only the imagery, not only but really there is nothing that America won't do to her citizens to maintain some sense of decorum, or even on behalf of people who are trying to hurt us. So I want to personally thank the people from ADAPT, the protesters from ADAPT who went out there and were detained on behalf of the rest of America who need the same thing. We need insurance coverage. We need solutions. We need Obamacare to be better than what it was. We need single payer. We need something to make it so that we don't have to go bankrupt just in order to survive a medical crisis. And so I want to thank those activists who were there on our behalf while we were here doing whatever it is that we're doing. They were there protesting on our behalf today. The video that you just saw was by Jordan Uhl at Jordan UHL on Twitter. Definitely go over there and check out the other videos that he has. A couple of other things. There was a series of tweets by Senator Bob Casey. Yeah, Bob Casey of Pennsylvania. And I want to just go through his tweets. He had a pretty good breakdown of it. Let's take a look at some of them. So Casey said, this scheme sells out the middle class, seniors, and individuals with disabilities to pay for a tax cut for the wealthy. And that's obscene. He goes on to say, on page 41 of the bill, they revoke essential health benefit requirements. If you go to the next tweet, he breaks that down. This means insurance companies are no longer required to cover things like maternity care and emergency services. This will affect everyone. And then finally, he says on page 86, he found where they are decimating Medicaid. And, you know, we've gone through all those things, but it's, you know, this is what's happening. And we need our senators to fight tooth and nail. There is no compromise on this. There is no triangulation on this. Someone floated 2 weeks ago that they were going to consider not going nuclear on this in order to get the sanctions, a bipartisan effort on sanctions against Russia. No, this is not something that you triangulate on. This is the hill that you rhetorically die on. You fight this fight until there's nothing left, and you extract as much pain as you can out of the Republicans. You cause them as much political pain as you possibly can and make them pay for this. Make them pay for this at the polls. Make them pay for this at every step of the way. Make them pay for this before they get anything else done. Cause as much political pain as you possibly can. There is no compromise. There is no triangulation with people who are trying to destroy us in order to give a tax break to the wealthiest. And with that note, I want to mention something that's coming from Progressive Uplift. I think it's actually apropos for the time in light of the Republicans moving forward with the AHCA today in the Senate. It's imperative that people get prepared for the worst. And to that end, one of my colleagues, Michael Graham, has been riding with me since I think like day 2. Michael Graham has been fighting with me for a long time at the Progressive Army, and he started what's called Progressive Uplift. And they are affiliated with the Progressive Army, which is why I'm here promoting it here. And I want you to go out and support. There's a senior writers at at Progressive Army, as well as Rachel Wolfgang, a contributor to Progressive Army. They've gotten together and written the ultimate guide to surviving President Trump, healthcare, life after Obamacare. It is a part of Progressive Uplift. You should go over there and check them out.